Clara's hands trembled as she clutched the termination letter, her vision blurring with tears she refused to let fall. "You're a thief," Olivia Stewart hissed, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor of the Bernardi mansion. "Did you really think you could steal from us and get away with it?" The words felt like knives. Clara had worked in this house for 8 months, scrubbing floors until her knees ached, polishing silverware until it gleamed, doing everything to keep this job she desperately needed. And now, in a single moment, it was all crumbling because of a lie she couldn't prove false. But what Olivia didn't know, what no one knew, was that Clara had a secret far bigger than any stolen food. A secret that made this job, this income, absolutely vital. A secret that was growing inside her with each passing day. The worst part, Ryan Bernardi, the man who owned this mansion, the most powerful and feared mafia boss in the city, was standing right there. And he was engaged to the woman destroying Clara's life with a smile on her perfectly painted lips. If you want to discover how this story began and what happened when Ryan finally learned the truth, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Every view helps bring more stories like this one. Now, let's go back to where it all started. 8 months earlier, Clara had stood outside the iron gates of the Bernardi estate, her worn resume clutched in both hands. The mansion loomed before her like something from a movie, all white columns and endless windows surrounded by manicured gardens that probably cost more to maintain than she'd earned in her entire life. She almost turned around. "You here for the housekeeping position?" A stern woman in her 50s appeared at the gate, eyeing Clara's second-hand coat with barely concealed judgment. "Yes, ma'am. Clara Bennett." She straightened her spine, forcing confidence she didn't feel. "I have experience in can you start today?" Clara blinked. "Today?" The previous girl quit without notice. "Mr. Bernardi has guests arriving tonight." The woman, Mrs. Wong, the head of household staff, unlocked the gate. "If you can handle the workload, the job is yours. But I warn you, this isn't an ordinary household. Mr. Bernardi expects perfection, and he doesn't tolerate mistakes." Clara thought of her empty refrigerator, the overdue rent notice, the reason she absolutely needed this job. "I can handle it." She had no idea what she was walking into. The first week passed in a blur of exhaustion. Clara cleaned rooms larger than her entire apartment, learned the names of wines she'd never be able to afford, and perfected the art of becoming invisible. In houses like this, staff were expected to appear only when needed and disappear the moment their tasks were complete. She rarely saw Ryan Bernardi himself. He was always gone before dawn, returning late at night when most of the staff had already left. But she felt his presence in every corner of the house, in the way everyone moved a little faster when his car pulled into the driveway, in the hushed phone conversations that stopped the moment she entered a room. In the private wing, no one was allowed to enter without explicit permission. Clara learned quickly. Ryan Bernardi was not just wealthy. He was powerful in ways that made politicians nervous and rivals disappear. It was her third week when she first came face to face with him. She'd been cleaning the library, a room filled with leather-bound books and the smell of expensive cigars, when she heard footsteps. Clara froze, her hand still on the antique globe she'd been dusting.
"Who are you?"
The voice was deep, commanding, and came from directly behind her. Clara spun around so fast she nearly knocked over the globe. Ryan Bernardi stood in the doorway, and Clara's breath caught. He was nothing like she'd imagined. Tall and broad-shouldered. He wore a black suit that looked tailored to perfection, his white shirt open at the collar. Dark hair swept back from a face that was all sharp angles and intensity. Strong jaw, straight nose, eyes so dark they were almost black. A tattoo peeked from beneath his collar. Some kind of script she couldn't read from this distance. But it was his presence that struck her most. He filled the room without moving, commanded attention without raising his voice. This was a man who gave orders and expected them to be followed without question. I'm Clara, sir, the new housekeeper. If you're enjoying this story and want to see what happens next, please subscribe to our channel and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means everything to us, as we continue bringing these stories to life. She clutched the dusting cloth like a lifeline. Mrs. Wong said, "I should clean the library before noon. I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to be here. I can come back. You're fine." He moved into the room and Clara instinctively stepped back. He noticed, and something flickered in his expression. "Relax, I don't bite." Clara wasn't sure she believed that. He walked to the bar cart, poured himself 2 fingers of amber liquid. "Clara," he said, as if testing her name, "you're doing a good job. Mrs. Wong says you're the best worker she's had in years." "Thank you, sir." Clara's heart hammered. She'd never been this close to him before, had never realized how his presence seemed to charge the very air around him. Ryan turned to look at her, really look at her, and Clara felt pinned by his gaze. She was suddenly painfully aware of her plain uniform, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, the calluses on her hands from scrubbing and cleaning, but he wasn't looking at her with disdain. He was looking at her with interest. "How old are you, Clara?" 24, sir. "You live nearby, about 40 minutes by bus." She didn't mention that her apartment was in the kind of neighborhood where you didn't walk alone after dark, where the heat barely worked and the walls were so thin she could hear her neighbors' every argument. Ryan nodded slowly. "If you ever need anything, if anyone gives you trouble, you tell Mrs. Wong." Understood. It was a strange thing to say. Clara nodded, unsure how to respond. He moved toward the door, then paused. "And Clara, you don't need to call me sir every sentence. Ryan is fine when we're alone." Then he was gone, leaving Clara standing in the library with her heart racing and her mind spinning. Over the following weeks, Clara saw more of Ryan. Not by design, their path simply crossed more often. He'd appear in the kitchen while she was cleaning, would work in the library while she dusted. He never said much, but she felt his eyes on her, felt something shifting in the air between them. It was dangerous. She knew that Ryan Bernardi was not just out of her league. He was in a different universe entirely. And yet, she found herself looking forward to those moments. Found herself disappointed on days when she didn't see him. Then Olivia Stewart entered the picture. Clara was cleaning the formal dining room when she heard the commotion. Excited voices, the click of expensive heels. Mrs. Wong barking orders to prepare the best cuisine. "She's here," one of the other housekeepers whispered to Clara. "Mr. Bernardi's fiancée." Clara's stomach dropped, though she had no right to feel anything at all. Olivia swept into the house like she owned it, and perhaps she did in a way. Tall and slender, with honey blonde hair that fell in perfect waves and a face that belonged on magazine covers. She wore wealth like a second skin. Her engagement ring caught the light, a diamond so large it seemed almost vulgar. "You must be the help," Olivia said when she spotted Clara in the hallway, her tone making the word help sound like something dirty. "Make sure my bags are taken to the master suite. And be careful. Everything in them costs more than you make in a year." Clara bit back a response and simply nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Over the next months, a pattern emerged. Olivia would descend on the mansion like a storm, criticizing everything from the thread count of the sheets to the temperature of her morning coffee. She treated the staff like furniture, useful, but certainly not deserving of basic courtesy. And she watched Clara. Clara felt those cold blue eyes following her. Noticed how Olivia would appear whenever Ryan happened to be in the same room. Once Clara had been reaching for a book Ryan had requested from a high shelf, and he'd steadied her elbow when she wobbled on the step stool. It was nothing, a gesture lasting barely a second. But Olivia had seen, and her expression had turned venomous. After that, things got worse. Olivia began finding fault with everything Clara did. The floors weren't clean enough. The flowers weren't arranged properly. This room or that room wasn't to her specifications. Clara worked harder, stayed later, did everything possible to be perfect. It wasn't enough because the truth was Olivia didn't care about clean floors or perfect flower arrangements. She cared about the way her fiancé's eyes would soften when Clara entered a room. She cared about the fact that Ryan smiled more in the months since Clara had started working there. She cared that this nobody from nowhere somehow had her fiancé's attention in a way Olivia, for all her beauty and breeding, had never managed to capture. And Olivia Stewart was not a woman who tolerated competition. Clara didn't know any of this. She only knew that her job, the job she desperately needed, was becoming a nightmare. And she couldn't quit. Not now. Not when she'd started feeling sick in the mornings. Not when she'd taken 3 pregnancy tests, each one showing the same result. Not when she was carrying a baby whose father had disappeared the moment she told him, leaving her with nothing but an empty apartment and a future that terrified her. She needed this job. She needed the income, the health insurance, the stability. So, Clara did what she'd always done. She kept her head down, worked harder, and prayed that would be enough. It wasn't. The beginning of the end started on a Tuesday morning in early autumn. Clara had just finished her shift and was gathering her things when Mrs. Wong found her. "Mr. Bernardi wants to see you in his office." Clara's heart sank. In 8 months, she'd never been summoned to Ryan's private office. Whatever this was, it couldn't be good. The office was on the second floor in the wing where staff rarely went. Clara knocked softly, her palms sweating.
Come in.
Ryan sat behind a massive desk of dark wood, papers spread before him, but he stood when Clara entered, a courtesy that made her even more nervous. "Clara, sit please." He gestured to one of the leather chairs facing his desk. She perched on the edge, hands clasped in her lap. Ryan studied her for a long moment. "You look tired." "I'm fine, Sir Ryan." Clara corrected herself, remembering his preference. "Are you?" He leaned against his desk, arms crossed. The position pulled his shirt tight across his shoulders, and Clara forced herself to look at his face instead. "Mrs. Wong says you've been working longer hours, taking extra shifts." "I don't mind the work." "That's not what I asked." His voice was gentle, but firm. "Why are you working yourself to exhaustion, Clara?" "Because I'm pregnant and terrified. Because I need every penny I can earn before I start showing and lose this job anyway. Because the father of my baby called me a liar and blocked my number, and I have no one else to turn to." "Just trying to save money," she said instead. Ryan's eyes narrowed slightly, as if he could hear all the things she wasn't saying. He moved around the desk, and suddenly he was closer, close enough that Clara could smell his cologne, something expensive and masculine that made her head spin. "If you need money, I can."
No.
Clara stood abruptly, putting distance between them. "Thank you, but no. I work for what I earn." Something flashed in Ryan's eyes. Respect maybe, or understanding. "I know you do. You're one of the hardest workers I've ever seen." "Clara, that's actually why I called you here." He returned to his desk, pulled out an envelope. "I'm giving you a raise, 20% effective immediately, and I'm putting you on the household health insurance plan. Full coverage." Clara stared at him, unable to speak. The health insurance alone was worth more than the raise. It would cover her prenatal care, the delivery, everything she'd been lying awake at night worrying about. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll take better care of yourself." Ryan's expression was serious. "You're valuable, Clara, to this household too." He paused, seemed to reconsider his words. "For you matter. Don't forget that." Clara left his office in a daze, the envelope clutched in her hands. She wanted to cry from relief, from gratitude, from the complicated tangle of emotions she felt toward a man she had no business feeling anything for. She didn't see Olivia watching from the top of the stairs, her face twisted with jealousy and rage. 2 weeks later, everything fell apart. Clara had woken up that morning feeling worse than usual. The nausea that had been her constant companion for weeks was particularly bad, and she'd barely made it to work on time. She'd been assigned to clean the formal living room, a task that usually took about an hour. She'd just finished when Olivia appeared in the doorway, her expression strange, almost excited. "Clara, could you come with me, please?" Her voice was sickeningly sweet. "There's something I need to discuss with you in the kitchen." Warning bells rang in Clara's mind, but she had no choice but to follow. The kitchen was empty. The cook had the day off, and the other staff were busy elsewhere. Olivia walked to the refrigerator, pulled it open with a theatrical gesture. "Care to explain this?" Clara looked at the refrigerator's contents. Everything seemed normal. The usual ingredients, leftovers in labeled containers, the staff meal prep for the week.
I'm sorry.
"I don't understand." What am I looking at? The food you've been stealing. Olivia's voice turned sharp as a blade. Don't play innocent. I've been tracking the inventory. Food has been disappearing for weeks, and now I have proof.
What?
No, I've never. There are witnesses. Olivia crossed her arms. Other staff have seen you taking food, expensive ingredients, steaks, seafood, cheese that costs more per pound than you make in a day. Clara's head spun. This couldn't be happening. That's not true. I would never. Are you calling me a liar? Olivia stepped closer, and Clara could see the calculated cruelty in her eyes. This was planned. This was a trap. I know what you are, Clara. I see how you look at him. How you flutter around Ryan, like you have any right to his attention. Did you think he'd choose someone like you? A little housemaid who steals from her employers. I didn't steal anything, Clara said, her voice shaking. Please just check the security cameras. They'll show. The cameras in the kitchen have been malfunctioning for weeks. Convenient, isn't it? Olivia's smile was poison. But it doesn't matter. I have witnesses. I have inventory records. And I have my word against yours. Who do you think Ryan will believe? His fiancée or the help? Clara felt her world tilting. She thought of the baby growing inside her. Thought of the health insurance she desperately needed. Thought of how she'd have to start over with nothing. Please, she whispered, I need this job. Should have thought of that before you started stealing. Olivia pulled out a pre-written termination letter from her designer purse. You're fired. Effective immediately. You have 10 minutes to collect your things and leave the property, and if you ever try to contact Ryan or come near this house again, I'll have you arrested for theft. Clara's hands shook as she took the letter. Does Ryan know about this? He will. Ariana's smile widened, and when he sees the evidence I've compiled, he'll thank me for protecting him from someone like you. Clara wanted to fight, wanted to demand to speak to Ryan herself, but she looked at Olivia's triumphant expression and knew it was useless. This woman had planned every detail, had covered every angle. Clara had no power here, no voice that would be heard over the word of someone like Olivia Stewart. So she did the only thing she could do. She walked to the small locker room where staff kept their personal belongings, gathered her few possessions, and left the Bernardi mansion with her head high and tears streaming down her face. She didn't see Ryan's car pull into the driveway just as she walked out the gate. She didn't see him stride into the house, demanding to know why his head of security had just informed him that Clara Bennett had been terminated. She didn't see the fury on his face when Olivia with practiced tears told him about the stealing, the lying, the betrayal. And she didn't see him an hour later standing alone in his office staring at the security camera feeds with an expression that would have terrified anyone who knew him because Ryan Bernardi trusted no one. Not completely, and that included his fiancée. So he checked the cameras himself. Ryan stood in his private security room, surrounded by monitors showing every angle of his property. His head of security, Marco, stood beside him, silent and tense. Show me everything from the past month, Ryan ordered. Every camera in the kitchen and storage areas. Marco's fingers flew over the keyboard, pulling up file after file. Sir, Miss Stewart said the kitchen cameras were malfunctioning. The kitchen cameras have never malfunctioned a day in their existence. I pay too much for that to be possible. Ryan's voice was ice. Show me. For the next 2 hours, Ryan watched. He watched Clara enter the kitchen dozens of times, always to clean, always to work. He watched her eat the staff meals provided, watched her sometimes skip meals entirely, looking pale and tired. He never once saw her take anything that didn't belong to her. But he saw something else. He saw Olivia 3 weeks ago taking expensive steaks from the refrigerator and hiding them in her designer bag. Saw her return on other days, removing seafood, imported cheese, bottles of wine. Saw her carefully documenting these items in a notebook, building her evidence. Ryan's hands clenched into fists as the truth became crystal clear. Olivia had been stealing from his own kitchen, creating an elaborate frame to destroy an innocent woman's livelihood.
And why?
He fast-forwarded through more footage, and his jaw tightened. There, a moment from 2 months ago. Ryan had been in the kitchen late at night, couldn't sleep, had gone to make himself a drink. Clara had been there, had startled when she saw him. He'd asked if she was all right. She'd looked unwell. She'd assured him she was fine, just tired. He'd insisted she sit down, had made her tea, had talked with her for 20 minutes about nothing important. The camera had caught them laughing together, caught the way he'd smiled at her, caught the softness in his expression that he rarely showed anyone. And there, in the doorway, where she thought no one could see her, was Olivia watching, her face twisted with jealousy, so intense it was almost frightening. Ryan turned off the monitors, his mind working with the cold precision that had made him one of the most powerful men in the city. Marco, I want you to locate Clara Bennett immediately. Yes, sir. And Miss Stewart? Ryan's expression could have frozen hell itself. I'll handle her personally. He found Olivia in the formal living room arranging flowers as if she hadn't just destroyed someone's life a few hours earlier. She smiled when she saw him, a smile that died when she saw his face. Ryan, darling, is something wrong? Where is she? His voice was quiet, deadly. Who? Don't. He moved closer, and Olivia actually stepped back. Good. She should be afraid. I've seen the security footage, Olivia. All of it. The color drained from her face. I can explain. You stole from my house. You framed an innocent woman. You fired her under false pretenses. Ryan's words were precise, controlled, but beneath them was a rage that made Olivia flinch. Why? She was getting too comfortable. Olivia's composure cracked. She was making you smile, Ryan. She was taking your attention, making you look at her like you've never looked at me. I'm your fiancé. I'm the one who should matter to you. You're right about one thing. Ryan pulled the engagement ring from his pocket. She'd left it on the bathroom counter that morning. You should matter to me, but you know what, Olivia, you never did. He placed the ring on the mantel. This engagement was a business arrangement. Our families wanted the alliance, and I was willing to go through with it because I didn't care enough to fight it. But you just made me care. Ryan, please. You have 1 hour to pack your things and leave my house. If you're still here after that, I'll have you removed. He turned toward the door, then paused. And Olivia, if you ever speak Clara Bennett's name again, if you ever go near her, if you even think about her, I will destroy everything you and your family have built. That's not a threat. That's a promise. He left her standing there shaking and headed to his office, where Marco was waiting. Found her, sir. She's in an apartment in the South End. But, sir, Marco hesitated. The building isn't safe. That neighborhood. I know what that neighborhood is like. Ryan grabbed his coat. Get the car. 25 minutes later, Ryan stood outside a building that made his jaw clench. Cracked windows, graffiti on the walls, the smell of garbage and decay. This was where Clara lived. This was where she came home every night after working herself to exhaustion in his mansion. He climbed stairs that creaked ominously, found apartment 4B, and knocked. Silence, then soft footsteps. Who is it? Clara's voice thick with tears. It's Ryan. Please, Clara, open the door. More silence, then the sound of locks turning. Too many locks for any door to need. The door opened just a crack, and Clara's face appeared red and swollen from crying. You need to leave, she whispered. Olivia said if I contacted you, she'd have me arrested. Olivia is gone. Ryan kept his voice gentle, though fury still simmered beneath the surface. Can I come in, please? I need to talk to you. Clara hesitated, then opened the door wider. Ryan stepped into a studio apartment, so small his office was probably larger, but it was clean, organized, everything in its place, despite the obvious poverty. Clara, I saw the cameras. I know the truth. Her eyes widened. The cameras? But Olivia said, Olivia lied about everything. Ryan moved closer, wanting to reach for her, but holding back. She's the one who is stealing. She framed you because she was jealous. Jealous? Clara's laugh was bitter. Of what? I'm nobody. Don't say that. Ryan's voice turned sharp, and Clara startled. He softened his tone. You're not nobody, Clara. You're hardworking, honest, kind. You're everything she could never be with all her money and breeding. Clara sat down heavily on her worn couch, as if her legs couldn't hold her anymore. It doesn't matter now. I'm fired. I need to find another job, and without a reference, you're not fired. The termination was fraudulent, and I avoided it. Ryan pulled papers from his coat. You have your job back if you want it with another raise and a formal apology from me for what you went through. Clara stared at the papers but didn't take them. I can't come back. Why not? She was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly she stood and walked to a small table where she picked up something. A photograph from a doctor's office. An ultrasound image. She held it out to Ryan with shaking hands. Because I'm pregnant, and once I start showing, you'll fire me anyway. Everyone does. They say they won't, but they do. So, what's the point? Ryan looked at the ultrasound image, a tiny bean shape, barely recognizable as human, but already alive. He thought of Clara, working herself to exhaustion. Thought of her riding buses for hours. Thought of her in this apartment barely scraping by. And he thought of how over the past month she'd become the best part of his days, how her smile could lighten his darkest moods, how her presence in his house had made it feel less like a cold museum and more like a home. Who's the father? He asked quietly. Gone. He didn't want anything to do with us. Ryan nodded slowly, his mind made up. Then let me help you. I don't need charity. It's not charity. He moved closer, close enough to see the fear and hope wearing in her eyes. Clara, I'm going to be honest with you. These past months, I've been lying to myself, telling myself that what I felt for you is nothing, that it would pass, that I could go through with marrying Olivia because emotions didn't matter in my world. Clara's breath caught. Ryan, let me finish. He reached out slowly, gave her time to pull away. When she didn't, he tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch gentle. Today, when I thought you were gone, when I thought I'd lost you because I hadn't protected you, it broke something in me. I don't want to live in a world where I don't see you every day, where I don't get to hear your voice, your laugh, where I don't get to make sure you're safe and cared for. Tears spilled down Clara's cheeks. You're saying this because you feel guilty. I'm saying this because it's the truth. I'm saying this because I've been falling for you since the day you knocked over that globe in my library and looked at me like I was a person, not a title or a bank account. Ryan cupped her face gently. I'm saying this because I want you in my life, Clara. You and your baby if you'll have me. This is crazy, Clara whispered. But she didn't pull away. We barely know each other. You're you, and I'm just your everything. Ryan's thumb brushed away her tears. And I know this is fast. I know it's complicated. But Clara, I didn't get where I am by waiting for the perfect moment. I got here by recognizing what matters and fighting for it. What are you saying? I'm saying move into the mansion, not as staff, as my guest. Let me take care of you and the baby. Let me prove to you that what I feel is real. He paused. And when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I want to make this official. I want you to be mine, Clara, in every way that matters. Clara looked up at him, this powerful man who could have anything and anyone he wanted, and saw only sincerity in his dark eyes. It was insane. It was impossible. It was everything she'd never let herself dream about. Okay, she whispered. Ryan's smile was brighter than she'd ever seen it. Okay. Clara let herself lean into him. Let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, fairy tales could happen to girls like her. But Ryan, if this is real, if you really want this, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll never lie to me. Never hide things or make decisions about my life without asking me. I've had enough of men who think they know what's best for me. Ryan pulled her closer, rested his forehead against hers. I promise. Partners Clara in everything. And when he kissed her soft and sweet and full of promise, Clara finally let herself believe that everything might actually be okay. The next 3 months transformed Clara's life in ways she'd never imagined possible. Moving into the Bernardi mansion felt surreal. Ryan gave her an entire suite, bedroom, bathroom, sitting room, all decorated in soft creams and golds that made her feel like she was living in a dream. Mrs. Wong, once she learned the truth about what had happened, became Clara's fiercest protector, making sure she ate properly and rested enough. That Stewart woman, Mrs. Wong had muttered while bringing Clara breakfast in bed one morning. I knew something was off about her. Should have trusted my instincts. Ryan was everything. Attentive but not smothering, protective but not controlling. He attended every doctor's appointment, held Clara's hand during the ultrasounds, asked a million questions about prenatal care and baby development. When morning sickness hit hard, he'd sit with her, rubbing her back and making sure she stayed hydrated. "You don't have to do this," Clara said one morning after a particularly rough bout of nausea. "I'm sure you have better things to do than watch me throw up. There's literally nothing more important." Ryan handed her a cool washcloth. "You're carrying my—" He paused, corrected himself. "You're carrying a baby. That makes you the most important person in my world right now." Clara caught the slip the way he'd started to say "my baby" before remembering that biologically the child wasn't his. But he never made her feel less than, never treated the baby as anything other than precious. One evening, about 6 weeks after she'd moved in, Clara found Ryan in the nursery he'd insisted on preparing. He was assembling a crib, his jacket off and sleeves rolled up, looking adorably frustrated with the instructions. "Need help?" she asked from the doorway. Ryan looked up, smiled. That smile that still made her heart skip. "I'm a man who runs a criminal empire, and I'm being defeated by an IKEA crib. Don't tell anyone." Clara laughed, moving to sit in the rocking chair he'd already assembled. Her bump was starting to show now, a small swell that made everything feel more real. "Your secret's safe with me." Ryan abandoned the crib, came to kneel beside her chair. His hand rested gently on her stomach, and Clara covered it with her own. "I felt the baby move today," she said softly. "Just little flutters, but it was definitely movement." "Yeah." Wonder filled his voice. "That's incredible, Clara. Do you want to know what I was thinking when I felt it?" "What?" "I was thinking about how different this is from what I imagined. When I first found out I was pregnant, I was terrified. I thought I'd be doing this alone, struggling, barely surviving." She looked down at him, at this beautiful, dangerous man who'd chosen her above everything else. "But now I can't imagine doing this without you." Ryan stood, pulled her to her feet, and held her close. "You'll never have to. I meant what I said, Clara. I'm all in with you, with this baby, with building a life together. Even though the baby isn't, don't." His voice was firm, but gentle. "This baby is ours. Maybe not by biology, but by choice. By love. That makes it real, Clara. That makes it matter." Clara felt tears sting her eyes. Happy tears this time. "I love you," she whispered. "I know it's probably too soon to say it, and maybe it's crazy, but I love you too." Ryan kissed her forehead, her cheeks, finally her lips. "Have for months. Was just waiting for the right moment to tell you." They stood there in the half-finished nursery, holding each other as the sun set outside. And Clara felt a peace she'd never known before. But peace never lasted long in Ryan Bernardi's world. The trouble started with a phone call. Clara was in the library reading a pregnancy book Ryan had bought her when she heard raised voices from his office down the hall. Ryan never yelled, so the sound of his angry voice made her immediately worried. She crept closer, not meaning to eavesdrop, but unable to help herself. "Don't care what he wants," Ryan was saying. "Tell Petrov if he steps foot in my territory again. He'll regret it."
Petrov.
Clara had heard that name before, whispered by staff with fear in their voices. A rival, someone dangerous. "Sir, he's threatening to." Marco's voice, tense and worried. "I know what he's threatening, but he doesn't know about Clara yet, and I want to keep it that way. Double security on the house. No one gets in or out without my knowledge." Clara's blood ran cold. She hurried back to the library, her heart pounding. That night, Ryan came to her room, something he'd been doing more often, though he always slept in the chair beside her bed, never presuming to join her. They'd kissed, touched, shared intimate moments, but Ryan insisted on waiting until after the baby was born for anything more. "I don't want you to think I'm only here for that," he'd said. "I want you to know that I'm here for you, for all of it." Tonight, though, he looked exhausted. Clara patted the bed beside her. "Come here." Ryan hesitated, then joined her, lying on top of the covers while she was beneath them. Clara turned on her side to face him. "I heard you on the phone," she admitted, "about Petrov." Ryan's jaw tightened. You weren't supposed to hear that. Is it serious? Are you in danger? I'm always in some kind of danger, Clara. It's the life I lead. He reached out, stroked her hair. But I won't let anything happen to you. I've increased security, made sure I'm not worried about me. Clara's hand found his. I'm worried about you, Ryan. If something happened to you because of me, because you're protecting me, nothing is going to happen to me. His voice was certain, commanding. And you're not a burden I'm protecting, Clara. You're the reason I fight. The reason I make sure my empire stays strong. Because now I have something worth protecting. He pulled her closer, and Clara rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. Tell me about your childhood, she said softly. I want to know everything about you. So Ryan talked, telling her about growing up in this world of violence and power, about losing his father too young and having to take over an empire at 25, about the loneliness, the isolation, the way he'd stopped believing in things like love and happiness. Until you, he said, kissing the top of her head. You made me believe again. Clara fell asleep like that, safe in his arms, unaware of the storm gathering on the horizon. 3 days later, everything went wrong. Clara had gone to her regular prenatal appointment, accompanied by 2 of Ryan's bodyguards. The appointment went well. The baby was healthy, growing perfectly, everything on track. She was in the parking garage heading to the car when it happened. A black van screeched to a stop beside them. Doors flew open. Men in masks grabbed Clara before she could scream. Before Ryan's bodyguards could react, she felt a cloth over her face. Smelled something chemical and sweet. The world went dark. When Clara woke, she was in a concrete room with no windows. Her hands were zip-tied, her head pounding. Panic seized her. Not for herself, but for the baby. Please, she called out. I'm pregnant. Please don't hurt my baby. The door opened. A man walked in, tall, blonde, with cold eyes and a cruel smile. Dante Petrov. Mrs. Bernardi, he said in accented English. Or is it still Miss Bennet? Ryan hasn't made an honest woman of you yet, has he? What do you want? Clara's voice shook. I want Ryan Bernardi to suffer. Folks circled her like a predator.
He took something from me.
Territory that was mine by right. So, I'm taking something from him. You. He'll come for me. Clara lifted her chin despite her fear. And when he does, I'll be ready. Volkov's smile widened. You see, I don't want to kill you, Miss Bennet. I want to use you. Ryan will come charging in to rescue you, blinded by love, and that's when I'll destroy him. His empire will crumble, and I'll take everything he has. Clara's mind raced. She thought of Ryan, thought of the baby, thought of the life they were building together. She couldn't let it end like this. You're wrong about one thing, she said quietly. What's that? Ryan won't come in blind. He'll come with a plan, with strategy, with every resource he has. Clara met Petrov's eyes and you'll lose, because that's what he does.
He wins.
Always.
Volkov's smile faded.
He raised his hand and Clara braced for the blow. It never came because at that moment the building exploded with noise, gunfire, shouting, chaos. Ryan had found her. The rescue happened so fast Clara could barely process it. One moment she was facing Petrov. The next the door burst open and Ryan was there looking like an avenging angel in black tactical gear, a gun in his hand and fury in his eyes. Get away from her, he growled, and Petrov actually stepped back. Bernardi, did you really think I wouldn't have trackers on everyone I care about? Ryan moved to Clara, his eyes never leaving Petrov. She's wearing a bracelet with a GPS chip. I've known where she was within 10 minutes of you taking her. He cut Clara's zip ties with a knife, pulled her to her feet. Are you hurt? The baby. We're okay, Clara said, though she was shaking violently. Ryan, behind you. Ryan spun, fired. Volkov's bodyguard dropped. The sound of gunfire echoed through the building, and Ryan pulled Clara close, shielding her with his body. Marco, he shouted, and his head of security appeared in the doorway. Building secure, sir. Petrov's men are down or fleeing. Ryan turned back to Volkov, who was now on his knees, blood spreading across his shirt from where one of Ryan's men had shot him. I should kill you, Ryan said conversationally. For touching her. For threatening my family. Then do it, Petrov spat. Get it over with. Ryan raised his gun, and Clara grabbed his arm. Don't please, Ryan. Not like this. Not in front of me. Ryan looked at her, saw the plea in her eyes, and slowly lowered the gun. You're right, he turned to Marco. Take him. Lock him up until I decide what to do with him. Then he swept Clara into his arms and carried her out of that terrible place. The ride home was a blur. Ryan held Clara the entire time, checking her over and over for injuries, his hands gentle, but thorough. I'm so sorry, he kept saying. I should have protected you better. I should have. You saved me, Clara interrupted. Ryan, you saved us, both of us. At the mansion, a doctor was waiting. She examined Clara carefully, did an ultrasound, and finally smiled. Baby's fine, strong heartbeat, no signs of distress, but I want you on bed rest for a few days just to be safe. Ryan nodded, dismissed the doctor, and carried Clara to his bedroom. Not the guest suite, but his own room, as if he couldn't bear to have her far from him, even for a moment. He laid her gently on the bed, sat beside her, and buried his face in his hands. Ryan. Clara reached for him. I almost lost you, his voice broke. Both of you, because of who I am, because of the life I lead, stop. Clara cupped his face, made him look at her. This isn't your fault, and I'm not going anywhere. Do you hear me? I'm not leaving you. I'm not running away. I'm not going to let fear control my life. You should, though. You should run as far from me as possible. Well, I won't. Clara pulled him down to her, kissed him with everything she felt. I love you, Ryan Bernardi. All of you. The dangerous parts, the protective parts, the gentle parts. I love you, and I'm staying. Ryan kissed her back deep and desperate, pouring all his fear and relief into it. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. Marry me, he said. Clara blinked. What? Marry me, Clara. Not because I'm trying to own you or control you. Not because of the baby or obligation, but because I love you more than I thought it was possible to love anyone. Because I want to spend every day for the rest of my life making you happy. Because you're my home, Clara. You and this baby, you're everything. Tears spilled down Clara's cheeks. Yes, she whispered. Yes, 1,000 times. Yes. Ryan pulled a ring from his pocket. Not the ostentatious diamond he'd given Olivia, but a simple, elegant band with a single perfect stone. I've been carrying this for weeks, he admitted, waiting for the right moment. Figured nearly losing you counted. Clara laughed through her tears as he slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. They were married a week later in a small ceremony at the mansion, just a handful of close friends and staff. Clara wore a simple white dress that accommodated her growing bump, and Ryan couldn't stop smiling. Mrs. Wong cried through the whole thing. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, and Ryan kissed his bride, Clara felt like her heart might burst from happiness. The months that followed were a blur of joy. Ryan transformed completely, becoming softer, more open, spending every moment he could with Clara. He read parenting books, practiced swaddling on teddy bears, and talked to Clara's belly every night. How's my little one today? He'd ask, his hand on her stomach. Did you give Mama a hard time? You better behave in there. Your little one, Clara teased. I seem to remember you saying our baby earlier. Our baby, Ryan corrected, kissing her stomach. Mine by choice. Ours by love. When Clara went into labor 3 months later, Ryan was a wreck. He held her hand through the contractions, breathed with her, whispered encouragement, and when their daughter finally arrived, tiny and perfect and screaming at the top of her lungs, Ryan cried. She's beautiful, he whispered, holding the baby like she was made of glass. Clara. She's perfect. What should we name her? Clara asked, exhausted, but glowing. Ryan looked down at the baby who had stopped crying and was staring at him with dark eyes so much like his own. Hope, he said softly, because that's what you both gave me. Hope for a better life. Hope for a future worth living. Clara smiled. Hope Bernardi, I love it. 3 years later, Clara stood in the garden of the Bernardi estate, watching Hope chase butterflies across the perfectly manicured lawn. At 3 years old, she was fearless and joyful with Ryan's dark hair and Clara's smile. Mama, look, Hope called, holding up a flower. Pretty, beautiful baby, Clara called back, one hand resting on her swollen belly. Baby number two was due in 2 months, arms wrapped around her from behind, and Ryan kissed her neck. You're supposed to be resting. I'm pregnant, not broken. Clara leaned back against him. Besides, someone had to watch our daughter before she destroyed all your roses. Our daughter can destroy anything she wants. Ryan's hand joined hers on her belly. She's perfect. They both are. Clara turned in his arms, looked up at the man who'd changed her entire world. Do you ever think about how different things could have been if Olivia hadn't fired me? If you hadn't checked those cameras every day, Ryan's expression grew serious. And every day I'm grateful it happened the way it did, because it led me to you, to this, to a life I never dreamed I could have.
Papa. Papa.
Hope ran up, throwing herself at Ryan's legs.
Up.
Ryan scooped her up, tossed her in the air, caught her giggling. What's the magic word, Prince?
Please.
Better. He settled her on his hip. What do you say we go inside and get Mama some ice cream? The baby wants ice cream. The baby?
Huh.
Clara raised an eyebrow. Okay, I want ice cream, but I'm using the baby as an excuse. Clara laughed, let Ryan lead her inside with Hope chattering about butterflies and flowers and all the important things in a 3-year-old's world. That night, after Hope was asleep and they lay in bed together, Clara thought about how far she'd come. From a struggling girl with nothing to her name to this, a family, a home, a love that had saved her in every way a person could be saved. Ryan, she whispered. He was half asleep, one hand on her belly, feeling the baby kick. Thank you for checking those cameras, for believing in me, for choosing us. Ryan opened his eyes, looked at her with all the love in the world. Thank you for letting me, for teaching me what it means to really live, for giving me everything I never knew I needed. He kissed her softly, sweetly, full of promise and forever. And Clara knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Home. 5 years after that terrible day when Olivia Stewart had tried to destroy her life, Clara sat in the Bernardi Mansion's library, the same room where she'd first truly met Ryan, watching her family. Hope, now 8, was teaching her little brother, James, how to read. Her patience with the 5-year-old both hilarious and heartwarming. Their youngest, baby Sophia, slept peacefully in Ryan's arms as he reviewed business documents with one hand and rocked her with the other. Mama, James isn't listening, Hope complained. AM too, James protested. Kids, Ryan said mildly, not even looking up. Inside voices, please. Your sister is sleeping. Both children immediately quieted, and Clara hid her smile. Ryan Bernardi feared Mafia boss brought to his knees by 3 children and absolutely loving every minute of it. He caught her looking and winked.
What?
Nothing. Just thinking about how much I love my life. Ryan carefully stood, transferred the sleeping baby to her bassinet, and came to sit beside Clara. He took her hand, played with her wedding ring, the same simple band he'd given her all those years ago. Any regrets? He asked as he sometimes did. Not a single one. Clara leaned against him. You only that I didn't check those cameras sooner. Could have had you in my life months earlier. Clara laughed softly. Everything happened exactly when it was supposed to. We ended up here, didn't we? Together, happy with our beautiful chaos of a family. Our beautiful chaos, Ryan agreed, kissing her temple. Though I'm putting my foot down at 3 kids no more. We'll see, Clara teased, and Ryan groaned as the afternoon sun streamed through the library windows. Clara reflected on her journey from poverty and fear to love and security, from being accused of stealing food to running the Bernardi Foundation, a charity that helps single mothers get back on their feet. She'd turned her pain into purpose, her struggle into strength, and beside her every step of the way had been Ryan, her partner in all things, the man who'd seen her worth when she'd forgotten it herself. Olivia Stewart was long gone, last heard of living in Europe with a husband she'd married for his title. She'd sent a gift when she heard about Clara and Ryan's wedding, a simple note that said, "I was wrong. Take care of him." Clara had, though not in the way Olivia meant, she'd taken care of Ryan's heart, his soul, the parts of him that had been locked away before she'd arrived in his life. And he taken care of her, not by controlling her or limiting her, but by supporting her dreams, celebrating her strength, and standing beside her as an equal. Clara, Hope called, "Can we have movie night tonight, please?" Clara looked at Ryan, who shrugged. "Why not? Fridays are for family." So they gathered in the home theater, all five Bernardi plus Mrs. Wong, who'd become more grandmother than employee, and watched animated movies with popcorn and laughter and joy. And as Clara sat there, surrounded by the family she'd built, loved by the man she'd never thought she could have, she remembered that terrible day when she'd walked out of this mansion with tears streaming down her face. She remembered thinking her life was over. She'd been so wrong. Her life had just been beginning. This story has come to an end. Thank you all for following this story. If you enjoyed it, please write in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video as your support is important for me to continue creating content. New stories are coming soon. Until next time.